So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today we're going to take a quick look at Latron Wraith. So compared to the original Latron, it does the same damage, although the damage distribution is a little bit different. It has higher impact damage of 13.75 versus the original's 8.25, and lower slash damage of 2.75 versus the original's 8.25. It has higher fire rate of 5.42 rounds every second versus the original's 4.17 rounds every second, higher critical chance of 25% versus the original's 10%, higher critical multiplier of 250% versus the original's 200%, and higher status chance of 20% versus the original's 10%. Now, it is also an upgrade over Latron Prime, even though the base damage is much lower. So Latron Wraith does 55 damage per shot, and Latron Prime does 85 damage per shot. That's 30 more damage. The damage distribution is also a lot different. It has lower puncture damage of 38.5 versus a Latron Prime 68. This is a big difference. It has higher impact damage of 13.75 versus Latron Prime's 8.5, and lower slash damage of 2.75 versus Latron Prime's 8.5. But what makes the Wraith version better than the Prime version is the higher fire rate of 5.42 rounds every second versus the Prime's 4.17 rounds every second, and higher critical chance of 25% on the Wraith versus the Prime's 15. This makes the Wraith an excellent crit weapon because it's far more reliable. If you put on Point Strike and Argon Scope, you're gonna crit basically every time, so you are taking advantage of that crit damage, and that makes the Wraith version better than the Primed version because there is no way to crit reliably with the Primed version. And while it does have a lower status chance of only 20% versus the Prime's 25, this is not the best weapon to use for spreading status around because it's a semi-automatic rifle that doesn't have any AoE and you will only affect one enemy at a time, and it's much better to just crit them and kill them with one shot. One really good thing about the Latron series of weapons is their very high accuracy of 28.6. This basically means that if you don't spam fire them, so you don't just spam the fire button, you fire a shot, then you wait for the recoil to go back down and you fire them again, you will always hit the exact same spot. So they are one of the best weapons to use if you want to go for headshots. And I almost forgot, one more thing where the Prime wins over the Wraith is that it has a V and a dash, and the Wraith version only has a V. So if you want to go for a full build, you will have to invest one more Forma into the Wraith version. And speaking about builds on the Latron weapons, this is the one I chose for the Wraith version. It is a pretty standard Forma build, and what I did with that Forma is added 3 Vs and a dash. Now I'm using Serration for more damage, Split Chamber for multi-shot, Point Strike for critical chance, and Vital Sense for critical damage. Now since the weapon is very accurate and it is crit friendly, I'm using Argon Scope, so every time I hit a headshot and I'm aiming down sights, I get almost 100% crit chance, and I'm running Stormbringer and Infected Clip for corrosive damage, and Hellfire for heat damage. Now, I was thinking about using bladed rounds instead of Hellfire, but I ultimately decided against it because the Wraith version has very little slash damage. So it's not that great against fleshier units, but if you add Hellfire, you're gonna get heat damage, which helps a lot with those fleshier units. Now I know some people will point out that bladed rounds on paper are better than Argon Scope, but personally I would rather have a weapon that crits reliably than a weapon that does huge crit damage but only crits about 65% of the time. I would rather crit on every headshot I do than every other headshot and do ridiculous overkill damage. But then again, it's just my personal preference. I like consistent damage rather than spiky damage that overkills the enemy, so if you want to run bladed rounds instead of Argon Scope, go right ahead. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, would I recommend Latron Wraith? Yes, if you could get your hands on this weapon, just go for it, okay? It is a really fun weapon to use, and if you're good with your headshots, you're gonna have a lot of fun. You're gonna see some pretty big headshot numbers. The base damage distribution isn't the best because of the low slash damage, but you can fix that with mods. So overall, a big yes for this weapon. Go and get it, it's a lot of fun. And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.